What's up, guys? Eli here. I am here to do my top 10 films of 2024. That's right, my top films of 2024. Not, I don't claim that these are the best films of 2024. I always think it's weird when people do claim that, like these are the best films of or albums or whatever of any given year, because it's like, did you hear every album put out that year? Did you watch every movie that year? I mean, I think that's a little weird. So, and again, this is by preference, not necessarily what I think are the best films objectively. So these are the 10 films I enjoyed the most. With me, I got a glass of wine. I'm getting fancy. I'm kind of getting into wine lately. I've always kind of enjoyed it. I'm not fancy enough to buy proper wine glasses just yet, but whatever. That comes next. This is just a cheap red blend. Thought I would try it out. I like the reds so far. But anyways, let's get to it, all right? Now, although Maxine was my least favorite of the X trilogy, it was still a cool little stylized, as always, ending to, in my opinion, one of the coolest horror trilogies we've seen in a long time. Mia Goth is great as usual, and Kevin Bacon is a lot of fun, as he always is. And of course I have to mention Giancarlo Esposito, because he's a lot of fun here as well. And what I loved about the X trilogy overall is how all three films are set in a different time period and having individual influences to the films themselves. With Maxine, Ty West channels his inner Brian De Palma with some Italian giallo influences, and it's just a lot of fun. J.T. Molnar took us all by surprise, I think, with Strange Darling, his second feature-length film, which to me is a very inspired labor of love. The twists and turns, the suspense, in my opinion, Tarantino influences, the stunning cinematography by Giovanni Ribisi, the great leads in Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gallner. This one just completely took me by surprise, and for me it was one of the biggest unexpected successes of the year. Stop motion was another big surprise for me this year. Director Robert Morgan gives us his feature-length debut after 30 years of making shorts, and that's a definite success. Aisling Franciosi gives us an excellent performance as she guides us through this kind of dark fever dream nightmare. After losing her abusive mother, a legend of stop-motion filmmaking, she tries to finish her final project as the lines start to blur between fantasy and reality. Robert Morgan, being a stop-motion animator himself, found a really cool way to incorporate that into an atmospheric, dread-induced story, and I'd love to see him do more of this. Late Night with the Devil is another one I really didn't see coming this year. I especially didn't expect it to be as successful as it was. So Cameron and Colin Cairns wrote and directed a film seemingly custom made just for me. It's got the 70s throwback thing going on, occultism, possession, and a good performance by David Dastmalchian. It's not a perfect film, and I think it was a bit overhyped for some odd reason, but regardless, it delivered for me, and I just had a blast with it. This Irish supernatural horror film was yet another surprise for me. I wasn't really sold initially by the trailer, but I still dragged myself to the theater to check it out twice. Director and writer Damian McCarthy shows us that he is quickly rising up in the ranks of best horror directors out there. We also get some of the more creepy and honestly scary moments of 2024 here, which is not an easy thing to do these days, so that says a lot, I think. Not to mention a fantastic performance by Carolyn Bracken, not only playing two characters, but giving us one of my recent favorite characters in Darcy, a blind occultist looking to solve the mystery of her twin sister's murder. You probably won't be surprised to see Terrifier 3 on my list, although you may have expected to see it a little higher. I try not to be biased because I am a huge Terrifier fan, admittedly. It's just been so much fun for me watching Damien Leone's rise, and Terrifier 3 lived up to my personal expectations. I'm still not sure if it's my favorite film in the series or not, but it just might be, and it's at least getting really close. The budget was bigger, the effects look way better, and it might be David Howard Thornton's best Art the Clown performance yet. The humor was amped up, the gore lives up to the first two films, and I cannot wait to see what happens next in this franchise. The Substance was another film I had been anticipating pretty heavily. I loved the trailer, and I was really hoping for some great body horror, though I didn't really know exactly what I'd be getting. Well, The Substance delivers on all of that, and more, I think. I watched the entire film with a huge grin on my face, let's just put it that way. This was Coralie Farge's second feature length, and I can only imagine where she goes from here. The Henenlotter-esque splatter and gruesome practical effects, the entertaining performances from Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. I mean, it's got it all. Perfect Days is a German-Japanese co-production and the most recent film from legendary director Wim Wenders. The performance from Koji Yakusho was probably my favorite of the entire year. In this film, we follow him around as he works in Tokyo as a janitor, living a simple life and finding happiness in the things that most people take for granted. But knowing that much going in, I still got more than I expected, and I just appreciated that so much. This film is a peek into an ordinary man's life, and I think we can all learn a hell of a lot from it. I have said it many times here before, but I am absolutely loving this part of Nick Cage's career. I mean, sure, I'm not keeping up with everything he's been doing lately, but he's turned in some of his best performances this last 7 or 8 years. I also think that Oz Perkins is one of the best horror directors we have these days, by far. I'm a fan. Putting those two guys together was a perfect match, and adding Micah Monroe, Alicia Witt, and Blair Underwood makes it even better. The plot isn't perfect or seamless, but there's enough occult weirdness and creepiness here, and it's an atmosphere that only Oz Perkins can give us. I had a pretty strong top 10 already established before Nosferatu even came out, and I didn't expect it to make the list, especially at the number 1 spot. But here we are, you know, I mean, I'm a big Robert Eggers fan. I'm a fanboy, I think you could say. But this film just had really high expectations to live up to. This just scratched that gothic horror itch that I've had, kind of like Oddity did earlier in the year, but it also scratched another itch that I've had, which is a truly evil vampire film. The performances were really good, but the cinematography is what had me truly captivated. And that's my top 10 films of 2024. I didn't really realize how many of these I had been highly anticipating from either earlier in the year or even a year or more before. I don't think there's much so far for 2025 that I'm looking forward to that I can remember off the top of my head. But I'm sure that there will be plenty of gems that just aren't on my radar yet, and I'm looking forward to discovering them. So I'll leave you with this last question. What are you guys looking forward to in 2025? Cheers, guys.